Russia as we bring on the Premier of the province, Brad Wall. How was Newfoundland?
Newfoundland was good. It's good to be back. Although I'm kind of sucking on the picks this year. I'm in a slump like the Riders, about to break out this week, just like the Riders.
Looking at the scoreboard, and Daryl's looking at the same thing. It is I'm ahead. I have 9 correct out of the 16 games, so 9-7. Then it's Gary Nickel and the fans. They have 6 correct, so they're 6-10.
How do you think the fans feel about? I know I'd be happy to be beating. They're beating me, so fair enough. But how do you think they kind of be inside with Gary?
Yeah, be inside with that.
Kind of a good news, bad news.
We've learned, Premier, that we shouldn't let Jamie Nye run the whiteboard, because when we come in, he wins every pool that he keeps track of.
Yeah, you make a very good point. I didn't know there was a whiteboard. I thought it was. I thought these scores were kept in a more permanent fashion.
No.
Well, it says "Do not erase" on the whiteboard, so making sure everybody. It might change if I start to slip, though.
Guys, I spent a little time in radio, and signs like that just compel your colleagues to do precisely the opposite thing that the sign says. Don't you? Isn't that fair? I think that's fair. Do not erase on a whiteboard in a studio, a radio. I mean.
No food or drink allowed, that sort of thing. Yeah,
that's right.
Not a chance.
I got in trouble on that count. I was guesting on Gormley's show once, and I think I had some water in there, and I was apprised of the rules.
Yes,
they're strictly kept rules.
Yeah, only John Gormley can break them.
So well, I kind of took a sip of my water, and I may have accidentally tweeted it out.
Premier's picks here on the Green Zone. Premier Wall 0-4. What's your take on this football team? And were you watching the game in Newfoundland?
Till about the third quarter, we had to, and then it was just very late, 3.5 hours difference there, and so I think it was. I think I might have actually fallen asleep right when Lule broke that long run in the third quarter there. I think it was a second down situation. I don't know. I mean, the offense looks good. Like I said at the start of the Premier's pick season, I thought that the defense would be quite stellar this year, and it's struggling. Although I know when you look at it from a stats perspective, it's not necessarily in a number of categories. And I know the offense looks good. It's just that we're a little snake bit on the record, obviously, and the fourth quarter's been not that great. So, what do you guys think?
The defense needs to step up. The containment that we saw against Travis Lule is unacceptable. And I watched the game over, and all 4 runs, the exact same thing happened. Defensive end crashed. Jeff Knox Jr., the linebacker, just followed Andrew Harris, and there was nobody out there in contain.
Yeah, they bid on that read or ride option. They did. They bid hard. I know. It's going to turn around. It's going to turn around this week. I completely believe it, as is my picking, I hope.
Things like that happen, though, when a team is desperate. Don't you think that Alex Hall and Knox and those guys are trying to make the big play, and that's what happens. You lose with your responsibility and try to make the big play quite often, and it ends up costing you in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Over-pursuit happens when you're playing aggressively. You want to win. You want a big stop. I think that's exactly right. So, again, this is the best 0-4 team we've seen in a very, very long time. Not much of a consolation, but it should give us all a little bit of hope.
1-877-300-7275. You can also text your winners to 306-306. The fans are up against Premier Brad Wall, and the Premier's trailing. He's like the Riders, hoping for a big turnaround soon.
He's an easy mark.
So when you're hearing the picks from the Premier, maybe do the Costanza and do the opposite.
What's that old saying in Texas Hold'em? If you're looking around at the table, the players at the table, and you can't figure out who the mark is, it's you. Yeah. I think that might apply to these picks as well. And I'm looking around at Gary and Jamie and the fans, and I'm not seeing the mark. So maybe it's me this year.
Well, I asked. Glenn Suter brought up Cheers and how Woody was one of his favorite characters from that great '80s sitcom. And I asked who in the Rider locker room was the Woody Harrelson type character on Cheers, kind of, simple folk a little bit. And he couldn't come up with an answer. So. It might have been Glenn Suter from the 1989 team.
That's exactly right. Did you share that with him? I think think you should share that with him.
I don't have the guts to share that with him.
If he jumps on here soon, I'll happily share it with him. He lives in BC. He can't vote for me or against me anyway.
Good decision.
Premier Brad Wall, there is some good news this week for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and that is the Hamilton Tiger Cats are coming to town. And the stat for the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Riders is an amazing number, where I think the score is 113-33. The Riders have outscored the Tiger Cats since Kent Austin took over as the Tiger Cats head coach and has had to play in the stadium with his likeness hanging from the side of the stadium. So,
but now have we just made a big mistake there? Have we? Not that I'm superstitious, but have we? Is that kind of a stat jinxing? How about we should also focus on Ryan Smith coming back? That's probably more helpful than the previous record. Although that's quite astounding. Those numbers are pretty compelling.
113-33. The Riders have outscored the Tiger Cats the last 2 years. Of course, that includes the 2013 Grey Cup victory. So let's get to the picks as we bring on Gary the King Nickel, who's more of a prince right now in Premier's picks.
I can't believe that I'm the jester.
I was going to say, it almost sounded like you complimented me there, Mr. Premier, saying that I wasn't the worst player in this competition. That was incredible. Felt so good.
Well, it's an election year almost, so.
Well, let's just say you're looking pretty good with maneuvers like that, old friend.
Trying a little harder.
Let's start off with the first game of the week. The Calgary Stampeders in Ottawa to take on the Red Blacks, who have lost 2 straight to another Alberta team, the Edmonton Eskimos. I'll go with the Calgary Stampeders. Premier?
Stampeders.
I will also go with the Stamps. Jamie, you tricked me into taking Ottawa too many times. The dream's over. I'm riding with you guys.
It was the Premier who took Ottawa last week.
No, I know, but you took them the first 2 weeks and tricked me into thinking they were good.
I was on the call and I don't remember the tricking part. I just remember you saying you had a rationale and you picked Ottawa. That's all I remember, Jamie.
Well, I'm just trying to make it look like I know what I'm doing, you guys.
Gary has I don't know what's up, but the memory is kind of fading there a little bit.
I believe it's called selective memory.
Yes. Up next.
Well, at least he's self-aware. Well done, sir.
Up next is the Toronto Argonauts traveling out west. It'll be 10 o'clock Eastern time when it kicks off for them. 7 o'clock in BC against the Lions. Premier, who do you got, the Lions or the Argos?
I got the Lions at home.
Gary?
Yeah, that's a long flight and the time turnaround and all that stuff that smart people say, but I'm going with BC as well.
As we go to the next game, the Edmonton Eskimos against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm going Winnipeg because I have no faith Matt Nichols can keep winning with the Edmonton Eskimos. He's bound to lose one for them. So I'm going with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the second straight week, who nearly got me an upset in Calgary last week.
That's gross.
Premier?
Go ahead. Gary, go
ahead.
No,
Gary.
I will take Edmonton so I can gain a game on you, Mr. Nye.
Okay. Premier also going Winnipeg.
Interesting.
Feeling the love for the rivals to the east. Let's go to the game against the Riders and the Tiger Cats. So I've been taking the Riders almost all season, but I can't.
Yeah, I saw your picks on the CFL website. You're picking the Tiger Cats.
I know I'm picking the Tiger Cats. Yeah. Yep.
With a 25% confidence rating, I think is what I recollect.
Very
right?
well.
That's
very well.
right
He's
there.
doing the research. 25% confidence. Premier Wall?
I'm picking the Riders with a 110% confidence rating.
Election time.
110%, Gary.
Drew Amenda is going to be calling in at any time after you just said 110%.
Right after you lost.
I forgot how much he hated that.
Right after you left your feet. I'm going to go with, I don't care about your 25%, Jamie. I am taking the Riders as well. And I'm still disgusted that both of you guys took the Bombers. That's gross.
So you're picking the Riders, Gary?
Yep.
I am taking the Riders, yes.
I talked there and I missed the pick. Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, Mr. Premier.
No, that's all good. It's radio. We're supposed to talk, I think.
Oh, no, I'm just saying sorry that I jinxed the province again.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault.
The Premier's 0 for 4 when it comes to Rider games this year. That's That's what's bringing them down.
This whole full disclosure thing is it's kind of hurting the pick right now. Mind you, I'm not helping myself out in all the other games, so I can't blame them either.
What are the standings, Jamie? Where are we at?
Were you not paying attention? Premier Wall with 5 correct out of 16. Ooh. You're at 6.
Nice.
And I'm at 9. So I'm above 500.
It's pretty much like last year again, eh? We suck again.
And the fans who are in on it this year, the fans are tied with Gary Nickel with 6 so far. So keep voting, fans. And if you text 306-306 with your vote today, you can win that skill session with Megan Mickelson and Natalie Spooner for the Clarkson Cup Tour in Regina on Friday. Gentlemen, we'll see how it goes and talk again next week. Premier Wall, thank you so much.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
There is the Premier of the Province on Premier's Picks. Still time to get your picks in at 306-306.